What's up, Fantastic Geeks? I'm back with another awesome episode of a character spotlight, and today we are talking about Quake. So today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite and best moments of Daisy Johnson on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So let's get into this. So before I get into my top 10 favorite moments, I'm just going to give a brief history on her character. So Daisy Johnson is a relatively new character in the Marvel Universe. She debuted in Secret War #2 back in 2004, and honestly, I think she is one of the most underrated characters so far that, well, in my opinion at least. So she can control vibrations and like use them to her advantage. So that's why she calls herself Quake. And honestly, her powers are actually really cool, and she can be pretty lethal when she wants to. So Daisy Johnson was born to Calvin Johnson, who is also otherwise known as Mr. Hyde, who happens to have a really big temper. Would not want to mess with her dad at all. And she is one of the higher level Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that, other than Black Widow, she is like the youngest to ever become a level 10 S.H.I.E.L.D. agent in the agency of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I think that in itself is pretty cool. And of course, if you watch the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you'll get to see her evolve throughout the seasons to becoming a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, becoming Quake. So I would highly recommend watching the TV show. So if you haven't watched the TV show, I want to warn you, there will probably be minor spoilers, so just prepare yourself. So to kick off this list of 10 moments, coming in at number 10 is all the way back in season 1 with Daisy and Ward, or at the time her name was Sky, because that's the name she came up with for herself. But it was episode 20, I believe, when Daisy or Sky was playing like along with Ward's plan to get information off this hard drive that she encrypted, because she's really good at computers, about her blood and Coulson's blood as well. So that, and since Ward was working for the other guys, Hydra, and she recently found out about him being Hydra, so she was just kind of like playing along with his plan, and eventually they get to a diner, and it's actually the diner that we first see her in, and she's trying to get through the hard drive and get the information, and she just keeps stalling him, but she keeps asking him questions about like why do you think Garrett turned? Like, how can you like look him in the eye and like be able to deal with it? And in all reality, she was talking about him, because she already knew that he was Hydra. So I think she really played him in that moment, and I love it. Coming in at number 9 is one of my favorite fight scenes of season 2, and that is the single take fight scene in the Hydra base and that happens in season 2, episode 19. The title of the episode is called The Dirty Half Dozen, and that is when it's after Lincoln and Deathlock get kidnapped by Hydra, and they were starting to experiment on them. So Daisy goes back to S.H.I.E.L.D., or Skye goes back to S.H.I.E.L.D. and gets to see all her teammates again, and along with Ward, unfortunately, Coulson, May, Gemma, Fitz, and Daisy and Ward. They all go to this Hydra base in the Arctic to get them back, and there's this one single take fight scene that she does all by herself, thanks to the training from Agent May. It was just really awesome how she maneuvered that whole situation, and she didn't even have to use her powers, which made it so much cooler. And Chloe Bennett, the actress that plays Daisy Johnson, she actually did all of her stunts herself, but she ended up breaking a bone, I think, during that fight scene. But she just maneuvered that whole fight perfectly, and it was just awesome. Coming in at number 8 is Daisy's battle with Sonora, Battle to the Death, in season 5, episode 6. And I'm telling you, it was not all fun and games, but it was a really cool fight. So Sonora was Cassius's right-hand woman. She had some sort of ability to levitate these like pinball-like objects in the air, and like it was insane. But Daisy thankfully was able to use her powers in the fight, and it was just really cool how she just handled that like a pro, and it was awesome. Coming in at number 7 is Daisy's fight with Hive, who is also disguised as Ward. So this happens in season 3, episode 22, and it's the season finale, and oh my gosh, I'm telling you, it was a really cool fight. It's a fight that was a long time coming, that I know quite a few people wanted to see happen, and we finally got it. So Daisy was under Hive's control in season 3, like a good portion of season 3, and like when she got out of his control, she immediately wanted to go back under his control because she was going through withdrawal, and it was really hard for her to adjust. But when Hive couldn't do that, he couldn't like take control over her again, she got really, really, really mad. And like the few moments before they started fighting, like she just lost it. Her powers just took control over like probably the whole hangar, but the whole plane, the Zephyr 1 started to shake. Like everything around her was just and like the look on Hive's face was priceless, and she just like gave it all to him, but somehow Hive ended up still beating her in the end, which sucks. But that fight was really cool, so it's one of my favorite fight scenes. Coming in at number 6 is Daisy's fight with director Mace, who happened to be a LMD at the time. So this happened during season 4, episode 15, which is one of, in my opinion, one of the best Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes ever in the entire series, and that is called Self-Control, and that is like the last episode before the last arc of season 4. So it happened during the whole LMD story arc, which was one of my favorite story arcs they've ever done. So Self-Control, this entire episode was just super well done. And Daisy and Simmons were the only ones that were left that weren't turned into an LMD. So the LMDs were just trying to find them, and Daisy and Simmons ended up working together to convince the remaining people that weren't turned yet to help them get out of there, because the LMDs were after them, obviously. So Daisy took it upon herself to go out into the SHIELD base and confront Director Mace directly, and so those two ended up getting into this really epic fight, which ended in Daisy just utterly destroying like 2 LMDs at the same time. She just stood up and just, and it was awesome. Coming into the top 5 is one of the most emotional scenes in this entire show. It's when Daisy says goodbye to Coulson in the season 5 finale, which at the time we kind of all thought that it was going to be the series finale, but it wasn't, thankfully. So Coulson, in the midst of season 5, ended up finding out that he was dying. So he thought he was gonna die. Like, he didn't know when, but at the end of the season he said goodbye to everyone, and he ended up going off to Tahiti and living out the remainder of his life, also with Agent May, so that was sweet. But obviously the last person he said goodbye to was Daisy, and the whole scene just makes me cry every time, because I've always loved their relationship since the start of the show. It's like one of the best father-daughter relationships I've ever seen. Even though they're not technically father and daughter, but like Daisy, she started off the show being by herself, and Coulson took her under his wing and basically became like a father to her, and like their entire relationship has been like the core and the heart of the show, and I love it. I'm all for it. Coming in at number 4 is Daisy's fight scene in the prison. It happens during season 4, episode number 5, and that is when Daisy is back with S.H.I.E.L.D. after being on the run for so long, and she teams up with the team to try to find out information about what is happening in the world right now with the Inhumans and all these strange occurrences. So she travels to the prison with Coulson and May, and she ends up fighting this whole mob of prisoners by herself. So at the time her arms are not really doing that great, because she was rogue for so long, and she wasn't like taking care of her bones, so she wasn't using her gauntlets that protect her from the backlash of her powers. So she ended up fighting this whole room of prisoners by herself, and that whole fight scene was really cool to watch. And like, these guys, mind you, are like really big, tall guys, and here she is, just she just handles it like so well. But unfortunately they get the better of her and end up like basically almost choking her to death. But luckily Coulson and May find her and get her out of there, so it's awesome. So now we get into the top 3 best moments, and I'm telling you, this one is one of my favorite moments ever in the entire show, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a classic, like, ladies' night scenario with Simmons and Daisy in space, and they take these, like, little, they look like little mushroom things. Simmons calls them puffies at some point, but they didn't know that you weren't supposed to eat them, or humans weren't supposed to eat them, especially not on an empty stomach. So they ended up eating them, and they became so high. It was so funny. And, like, at some point they ended up underneath a gaming table, because they were on a party planet, Coulson, and they ended up in a casino trying to find Fitz, and they were so high that one minute they were laughing about everything, and then the next they were crying, and, like, you really see how close they are in that whole scene. And I'm all for it. I love it. It reminds me of myself and my best friends. Like, I just love her friendship with Simmons so much. It's definitely awesome to see 2 female characters just become best friends, and it's just really awesome. So I love that scene so much. Coming in at number 2 is a really, really nice entrance. It's one of her best entrances in the show, and that is the debut of this suit. Her first official Quake suit with her gauntlets, and I love it. So it is the start of season 3. It's the pilot episode of season 3, and Daisy, Mac, and Hunter are out on a mission to find Inhumans that have recently turned. Due to the ending of season 2, the Terrigen got spread in the ocean and got transformed into fish oil pills, so a lot of people ended up taking those and transforming if they had the Inhuman gene. So Daisy was trying to find all these Inhumans to, like, protect them and keep them safe from another agency. The ATCU was out to get them and, like, contain them and otherwise experiment on them. So I just love this suit so much, and I love the look of the gauntlets, and just that whole entrance was really nice. Plus she cut her hair short too, so it was a little bit closer to her actual comic book look. So I love that scene so much. So before I get to my number 1 favorite and best moment of Quake and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I want to go through a few honorable mentions. So this one, I know it's a small moment, but there was one scene in season 7 that made me chuckle a little bit. Part of that is because I used to play sports. I played baseball and softball all through, like, growing up, and so in season 7, they go back in time to, like, way back to the 1930s, and during this one fight scene, she ends up picking up this, like, pipe, and she says 1930s baseball reference and just starts hitting the guy, and I love that part. It made me chuckle a little bit. So another scene is when in season 6 they were trapped inside of Sarge's, or Evil Coulson's, truck, and all the Shrike, or the bat-like creatures, were surrounding them, and Daisy opens the door and just takes it upon herself to destroy all the strike, like by herself, like using her powers. And that whole scene was cool. Like they just basically just disintegrated, like as they were coming towards all of them. Like that was so cool. And I know one of Sarge's crew was with them, and she's like, "Are all the women on this planet so powerful?" And May's like, "Yeah." So Quake, she's definitely not one to mess with. So, and another scene is after Nathaniel Malik, who is Gideon Malik's son. In season 7, he ends up killing Jiaying right in front of Daisy. Sad. And Daisy, her powers end up reigniting again because Nathaniel ended up doing experiments on her earlier in the season to steal her powers from her because he wanted powers. So they both had Quake powers at the time, and after she witnessed her mom's death, she just kind of lost it. And like it was said before that she loses control over her powers like when she gets too emotional, and which was what was happening like when she first got her powers in season 2. So she couldn't control them because she just didn't know how, and her emotions like had a contribution to that. So, but yeah, after Nathaniel killed Jiaying, and yeah, that whole moment when she was like rising from the ground and like everything was shaking around her, it was just a really cool shot and moment. So I have to mention that. So finally, coming in the number 1 spot is when Daisy actually got her powers. And that whole scene is, it's emotional, it's dramatic, and it's just super well done, especially with the special effects. Like, I remember Chloe Bennett talking about how, like, much went into, like, just creating that scene. Because when she was exposed to the Terrigen Mist, thanks to Reyna, who was also an Inhuman, they went down into this Kree temple in Puerto Rico, and along with not the Monolith, but the Diviner, or the Obelisk. So they ended up going down. Well, Daisy went after Reyna to stop her, and they ended up both transforming into who they were meant to be. So after they were exposed to the Terrigen Mist, as most of you who know what happens when Inhumans are exposed to the Terrigen Mist, they, like, this cocoon forms around them, their entire body, and then moments later they just burst out of it, and they are who they're meant to be. So that whole scene was just super emotional. A lot of stuff happens. I'm not gonna go more into detail because I don't want to spoil it more than I already am. But she, like, when she comes out of that cocoon, it's just, oh, that shot is so cool. Like she's standing like this, like she's reaching out to someone, and the minute, like, it just starts crumbling slowly off of her, and then the next thing you know, she's like, boom, she just bursts out of it. And I know I can't do that justice right now, but like, if you've seen that episode, then you know what I'm talking about. And like, you could see the emotion on her face, like she has no idea what's happening, and oh gosh, it's just so awesome. So yeah. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 favorite Quake moments in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I do plan on doing more Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. videos in the future, and I really hope, like, if you haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I recommend it to everyone, because it is really an amazing show, and a lot of great moments, obviously, and like all the characters, they each have something special and something that we could all relate to. And like Quake was my first cosplay ever. Like, just from watching the show, I kind of got inspired to start cosplaying as her, and so, I mean, she's very powerful, she's smart, and she's very underrated, in my opinion, and I think that she could definitely join the Avengers and help them out in the future. So, just saying. So Marvel, if you're watching this, please just consider it. Please. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful, and hopefully it will be enough motivation for you to actually watch the show if you haven't already. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos, and if you have any other suggestions on characters that I can do in the future, just drop a comment below. In the meantime, I will see you guys next time, and stay fantastic.